Dad. Hit it.
I'm a bad dad sometimes.
Guys, it is Monday. It is 5 o'clock, a little bit later than normal today, but that is all good. Chris Pesek, I'm a real estate broker associate at Pesek Properties, and this is my buddy Stephen Babcock, who, Steve, I don't have our branding up here. There we
There it
go.
is. Perfect.
Now I got it. So we've got our branding. Guys, on this show, we talk about all things real estate, especially in Central Texas, Austin, Texas, and the outlying area. Man, you know, I don't know if I've ever asked you. You used to live in Southwest Austin.
hmm
You now live in Lago Vista, which,
I've
guys,
lived
is
almost everywhere. Yeah, in Austin.
Lago's a great suburb northwest of Austin, just on the north side of Lake Travis. Steve, if you could pick any suburb in Austin to live, what would it be? Dropping you on the spot, man.
Look, I mean, I know I'm biased, but I'd say this one,
Okay.
Lago.
Lago Vista. There you go.
They have an enormous number of parks. I think it's like 11 parks, most of which are on the water, on the lake,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? They have a fantastic school system. I think they're rated A plus, right? I
Yep.
believe.
And it's a smaller school. It's Lago Vista is a smaller school district. It's not a 6A like a lot of the other ones. I think it's still
Yeah,
4A.
so you get the smaller classrooms kind of thing. And I mean, like for instance, we have a special needs child. My youngest son, Luke, as you know, is on the autism spectrum and nonverbal. And the first 6 months that we sent him to school, he had three teachers to himself, and two of them had master's degrees. Now,
Holy
after
cow.
6 months, and we got him in early, right? But it was when he was really young. But after that, more kids started trickling in, and I think now there's still three specialists for like 9 children.
Wow.
I mean, it's just outrageous how much better it was than the other school system we were in, which I will not mention, that had many, 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 many children for very few teachers
Right.
in the special needs department. And it's not that one's better than the other. I think. Well, I'm not sure. Now I'm just going to stop. At the end of the day, here I love Lago Vista.
There you go. There you
Yes.
go. And that's part of what we do. And guys, I didn't tell you what we do. I just jumped into it because I was thinking about it. It's Monday, so we talk about all this stuff. We also tend to drink a little bit because it's after hours. And I know last time I told you I was not drinking. So tell me what you've got.
I got my Heineken. Are you still not
Heineken.
drinking?
Heineken. Well, man, I'm going to tell you, I'm on a little bit of a working vacation, and so I do have a little bit of whiskey here. This will give away where I am today. This is Leopold Brothers whiskey, which is distilled in Denver, Colorado. So
Yeah.
what do you
Well,
think I am?
everyone would guess that you were there as opposed to Austin. It's one of the two. Cheers,
Cheers, man.
my friend.
Okay,
So.
guys, let's jump into some numbers here. Let's talk about the real estate market 'cause things are changing pretty quickly, right? What did you just do? You're sideways.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're not moving.
Yeah, I'm looking up the mortgage rates right now.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay. That's fine. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk about a couple of things. Maybe. Oh, hell, I can't.
That's so wrong.
I can't find what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and share my whole screen. And then I'm going to pop in here. Let's talk about a couple of different suburbs. Let's talk about Kyle Butte first, because I think last time we talked about Austin. Man, I'm seeing a lot of similarities between the suburbs. And I know you're going to know what I'm talking about. Everything right now, for the most part, is down. Listings, the number of move-in ready homes, under contracts. What we're seeing bumps in are days on market and average sales price, and then the number of closings. So this is what Butte looks like. Crazy to me that there's 274 under contract houses in Butte and Kyle, and only 210 that are actively on the market that can be moved into in the next 30 days. That spells housing shortage. I don't know what anybody else is thinking, but that says housing shortage. And then if you look, move-in ready, out of active listings, there are 372 houses that are under construction right now in Kyle Butte. You and I have been talking about it for a long time. Mark Sprague talks about it. The new home builders are going to end up making the market better than it could be from a supply standpoint, but our supply is down, down, down. And I'm going to jump in real quick to Georgetown because it's a similar thing. Okay, active listings are down. Move-in ready, 392 in all of Georgetown. Under contracts, 306, so about 80% of the move-in ready homes. Days on market is up a little bit. Average sales price continues to go up and closed in the last 30 days, 151. So almost half of our move-in ready homes closed in the last 30 days. So again, supply is going to be in short supply. No pun intended. Actually, it kind of was a pun intended. But this is what I'm seeing all across the area.
Interesting.
Builder incentives are starting to go away. Last year we were talking a lot about, builders were giving major incentives and all this other stuff. And I haven't gotten an email with builder incentives probably in about a month and a half.
So the builder incentives were there as a freak out moment to a PTSD of 2008.
That's right.
So the builders were terrified of having a 2008 where they have 100 houses that were either ready to go or under construction, almost ready to go. Then each one of them is losing the money, and they can't sell any of them. That was, no, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that was 2008. If they had another one today, the thinking was, let's just dump as much as we can, as fast as we can, so that if we do run into this again, we're going to be okay. And they did that, but now they're out of inventory. You and I have been talking about this for a year, right? Mark Sprague has been begging them for a year. Mark Sprague's an economist we follow. He's been begging them to keep building new homes, and they have not for the most part. Do you know who has been building a lot of new homes, ironically enough?
Apartment?
My neighborhood out here in Lago.
Oh.
They've been building tons of new homes. I mean, like almost double what they had last year since then. I mean, like maybe not that much, but it's been quite a few homes.
Yeah.
I think kind of last 3-4 months we've had like 20 or 25 homes go up. It's and they're ripping down whole new sections that weren't supposed to be ripped down for like another year or two. So they're seeing something out here that
what's
we've been talking
interesting
about it.
though, and you and I have talked about it. Okay, the farther outlying suburbs typically are affected faster and harsher than things that are closer in. And let's be honest, one of the reasons Lago Vista isn't a massive suburb is because it takes you 50 minutes to an hour to get downtown because you've got to go around the north side of the lake.
You know what I just learned? This is through the grapevine sort of thing, so it could be wrong. But I just learned that Elon Musk bought property up by the Rusty Allen Airport here.
Dude, I've been hearing that for 2 years. Please try to confirm that.
Okay, because if that's true, then my fantasy with the boring company might actually happen, where they might bore under the lake.
You and I talked about that on the show.
I'm from Detroit. Okay, we have a tunnel that goes underneath the Detroit River to Canada. Well, I guess I've been a member. I've been living here for so long now, like 20 years now. I think it's probably time for me to call myself a Texan, right? They have this tunnel, and it's great. It's 15 minutes. You're done. You could be in Windsor, Canada, in no time at all. I don't know why we don't have something like that here that lets Lago get downtown, especially if the boring company be like, well, we're just going to test some new stuff out. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, you could just
why not? Yeah, why not? I mean, you see them doing something like they did in Vegas from the airport to downtown, where it's just these Teslas underground.
From what I've heard, I could see him doing one from his house that we don't hear about for the next 50 years. That was going under the lake the whole time, like straight to the airport.
All the way out to SpaceX and Tesla and all that other stuff. Yeah,
right. So he owns like 6 properties. They're all connected by tunnels underground, right? Yeah, that could actually be cool. I mean, if you're a billionaire, why not, right?
Yeah, but word would get out in Texas because you do have subsurface rights on your property, so he would have to pay people rent to go under.
I mean, I guess for how long? How long does it go, right? How long is a subsurface?
How long do you own the rights under your house or your property?
Well, okay, now I'm into a whole other set of questions. So number one, how far down does it go?
To the core.
Okay. Then number two, how are we arresting people for digging under their homes?
That's an even better question, and I have no idea. I think that has more to do with city restrictions and HOA restrictions.
You own the land. Just don't build on it. Okay, cool. That's fine. I understand. Weird.
No, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird.
All right. So I'll tell you, I looked at the rates.
Time out for 1 second. Time out for one second.
Sure.
guys, this is also meant to be an interactive show. If you've got questions, drop them in the we would rather answer that than just talk about each other and this stuff. So ask questions, even if it's after the fact. If you catch the show after the fact, make sure you're asking questions. We'll catch the comments and answer those. All right, buddy.
So you wanted to have a specific structure and format to the show this year, which is great. And my job is to update people on rates. So if you want to share the screen, which would be really nice, if you went to Google and did average mortgage rate.
You should be able to share it on your. Oh, you're on your phone.
I'm on my phone. Sorry, sir.
Oh man, you should have set me up. Go ahead and keep talking.
What I'd like most people to understand when you're looking at this is that there's two components that are supposed to be shared with you by a mortgage lender like myself. When I'm discussing the terms like this, the first one is if I mention the rate, I then must also mention the APR, which is in a percentage type of looking thing.
I got you here, buddy.
Thank you very much. So
it's got me in Colorado.
Oh, that's great. The problem with mentioning an APR or a rate is that no same person is going to have exactly the same rate or APR. Your credit score, your down payment, the size of the home, the type of loan, all these things and more have everything to do with what kind of rate and closing costs, which is really APR. APR should be called closing cost percentage. That's what it should be called. You would save a lot of confusion if you just, instead of naming it APR, which means nothing, annual percentage, you would name it closing cost percentage, right? Because that's really, okay. So if you have a $100,000 home and your APR is showing 3%, then you're paying $3,000 in closing costs. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So what you're looking at here, I'm not going to say out loud. I'm going to let everyone else look at it because you can Google the same damn thing.
That's right.
Okay. But if I were to read that rate to you, then I also must include an APR, which is truly impossible because I don't know your credit score. So, right, or anything else about you. So then what I get to do is I get to give you a generic APR, which I believe is even worse than an actual APR. So, right, I mean, it's no matter what, it's a lie because I can't tell you the truth because I don't know what your numbers are, right? So no matter what, the law is forcing me to lie to you so that you have some idea of what the truth is. I'd rather you just apply, but, whatever. That's me. Okay, first thing I would like you to notice here is what the market is telling us. Do you see what the rate is for the ARM loan, that third loan on there?
Yep.
All right.
ARM is higher than your 30-year fixed.
What do you suppose that tells us about interest rates and the market?
Probably tells me that it's going down.
This means the market believes that in the short term, rates are going to be higher than they are in the long term.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I wouldn't have caught that. All right.
They're saying there is more risk to giving you a short 10-6 ARM, right? That adjusts every 6 months after 10 years.
Okay,
than there is giving you a 30-year fixed loan. All right,
Okay.
This is essentially what happens when we get a yield curve inversion. Where this would really be a yield curve inversion is if the 15-year had a higher rate than the 30-year.
Right,
You would
yep.
immediately be like, okay, and that's not how we judge it, but that's essentially the same idea. Okay, right. So right off the bat, I want you to know that we do not have a good rate environment right now. There is a ton of confusion at this very moment.
And that's a good way to put it.
1 month ago, I would have been saying something a little differently. Okay. Things got better and better and better and better in rates, right? We went from roughly 8.5 to what you're seeing here, right? And things just kept getting better and better and better. And then all of a sudden, data came out. If I were going to put it into a sentence, it would be like, hey, man, everything was looking great, but this new data is kind of freaking me out, so let's just put a pause on it, okay? And that's basically what's just happened. And so, if you looked at the last month or so of data, it does this, but it's just straight. I mean, it's if you really plot out where it is, then and now, it's really hasn't done much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're seeing all along here.
Right, but it did drop a little bit since its highs, than a month and a half ago.
Right.
And so that's where rates are today. And what the funny part about this is that about 2 weeks ago, we locked someone in, and they had to pay points, which would give them a very different APR than if you didn't have to pay points, which is money you pay to get a better rate. But we locked them in the high fives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And again, if I say a specific rate, I got to get even more specific, so I'm not going to. But point is, there are options that are far below what you're looking at here. And so if you're thinking about buying, now actually is a pretty good time to check out what your numbers might look like.
because I'm
Don't
going to
don't let
point
those
out a
numbers scare
couple.
you away.
I was about to say, yeah, these numbers aren't. I've seen people recently locked in well under this, but I'm going to show people a couple of
Well
things
under.
like I'm going to go up to a $600,000 house in Dripping Springs. Okay, that's pretty normal. All right, that lowered it a little bit. If you've got a good credit score but not an outstanding, we'll call you 760. Okay, they get better by almost a half point. Okay,
Now put five
so
percent down.
yep, that's what I was just going to do. Oh, they're actually fairly stable.
Rate gets better though with 5% down than
Oh,
it
it
does with
does. It
20.
was marginally better. You're right.
Mm.
And look, if you're one of those people that feels like you've got to put a lot of money down because you're
Oh,
going to get a
35.
better rate,
35 would be the best. Yeah.
oh, it does. Look at that.
Yep.
So anyway, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's
In
just
fact, watch
playing around with
240.
those a little bit.
240. It shouldn't
Good.
change from 30. Go 35.
Oh, 35.
Okay. 6.834. 6.833.
It's
So
not letting
point
me go to
zero
40.
zero 0.001. It basically doesn't change.
Oh yeah, yes, exact same. There
Once you
you go.
hit 35%, you're pretty much as good as you're going to look on paper.
So anyway, that's kind of what that stuff looks like. And I'm going to show you, Steve, I sent this to you this morning. Let's go one more little presentation mode here if I can. And I'm going to have to do entire screen, I believe, because,
Oh, this was an interesting graph.
yeah, I liked this actually.
This was interesting.
Wait, where did it go? Here it is.
Wasn't 100% accurate, but it was very interesting, and
Yeah,
it did a really good job of giving you a general idea. If you really read the text and everything that he, half his article explains what it is. The second half of the article explains why you shouldn't take it. 100%.
yeah, at face value, right? So
Right.
this is another guy. Steve Harney is another analyst that I've been following on Twitter for a while now, and he's been getting a lot of questions for people to go back and look at the affordability. Home affordability index takes into account a few different things, but he's been trying to get, or people have been trying to get him to try to find data to compare the '80s when we had high interest rates to now and what the home affordability looks like. And so basically, anytime you're up in the red, you've got poor home affordability above 1. And anytime you're in the green, you've got good home affordability. And a couple of things stuck out to me. First of all, obviously, we had an interest rate environment where we were like 18 and 19%, right, in the early '80s. So we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. A couple of other things.
Yeah,
Home
but you're thinking
affordability.
18% versus a $60,000 house,
Right.
right? And but
Yeah.
he's also saying affordability, so that would factor into the payment versus what they're making back then. So it's hard to read this graph when you got to think about it the right way. I'm sorry,
Yep.
I'm
No. You're good, and that's what I was going to talk about. Because he threw in a couple of things here that I wanted to talk, especially about that. Or maybe it was in the comments. It was in the comments, so I'll do my best to kind
definitely
of
in the comments. Yeah.
bring it back. One of the major things that we're seeing is, okay, we're spiking right now. We spiked, oh, look at that, since mid 2022, which is when we saw the interest rates go up. Okay, so it's an interest rate environment thing. It's not necessarily a home price thing, because home values. I mean, I saw a house on the market in California the other day for $60,000. Everybody was like, "Oh, well, I wouldn't want to live in that town." Well, but you could, and you could go buy a $60,000 house and live in that town, and your home affordability would be great. But this also talks about income and things like that. And so the overriding factor here is not necessarily that people make less or that houses are so much more expensive. It's that we're in an environment right now where interest rates have gone up quite a bit. Okay. The other thing that you can't help but look at here is every time we see a spike, you see a mean or a reversion back to mean, right? Spike drops back down to 1 to mean. Spike drops back down, and then below. Spike drops below. Spike drops below. Spike. Okay, so home affordability, it's gonna drop. Here's my question for you. Here's my question, and you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, sure.
Here's my question.
It's a good insight to see this. Yeah.
What's going to cause the drop?
Well, that's funny.
Because I asked you last time we talked about what we saw long term for interest rates and home prices, and you and I were both pretty much in lockstep with that.
Well, I mean, are you asking me to predict the future here, Chris?
I'm not asking you to predict the future. I'm telling you that in the future, that home affordability index will revert back to mean, back
It'll drop down.
towards one. It will drop again. Okay.
If you
What do
look at
you think
almost
is going to
anything,
cause it?
commodities are famous for this because commodities don't go out of style like a Blockbuster Video did, right? We still need copper, etc. And you'll see the price of copper drop and then shoot up and then drop and then shoot up and then drop, but it never goes to zero, right? I mean, you can't have $0 copper, right? If you find a bunch of it, it gets cheap, but it never goes to zero. Right? Well, housing is kind of the same idea because it's a food, water, or shelter. Think of it like a commodity, something that will never go out of style, right? And so, no matter what, there's always going to be a demand for housing. Period. There's a huge demand right now for housing, right? Whether there's enough supply and whether there's favorable terms is another question, but the demand is there, right? Maybe not from a 101 economics class. I don't see the purchase. That's not what I mean. People want houses, whether they're going to buy them, right? Like I want a Lexus, right? Now, can I afford the most expensive Lexus? Like what I really want is the new Cybertruck, bro. I want to be that guy everybody looks at when I pull into the parking lot. They're like, what the, right? But it's like $120,000.
What is wrong with you?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I want people to be like, bro, let me at least look at it, man. But I need $120,000 for the best Cybertruck, right? Does it mean I don't want it? No, but it does mean I can't afford it, so I'm not going to buy it. But the demand is there. I do want the Cybertruck, right? And so
I'd say desire, I think, not demand. Desire.
Well, sure, fine, but desire equals demand, right? At least eventually. At least if you think about it enough, right? And so, because your subconscious gets you there always, right? And so, if you're thinking about living anywhere, you're either going to rent or you're going to buy, right? Well, what's funny about this conversation is that there's like three different kinds of people out there, but I'll focus on the majority. The majority goes to where the cheapest amount of monthly payment is, right? And so when the rates get really low and it becomes really cheap to buy a home and then people can rent it out for lower prices, then rent goes down. Okay, well then when homes become difficult to buy and people can't buy new homes, then by default, the prices start going up in rent, which is exactly what's been happening. So once people are able to buy homes again, and even if they aren't able to buy homes again, that should equal itself out on a long enough timeline. Right. All of these high rent, low rent things are a temporary temporary problem to economics not balancing out. You think of it like being on a trampoline. You got to let the bounces calm down, right? Until you stop moving.
I'm gonna pause you right there because I'm gonna throw in just a talking point, not necessarily for now, but more of sticking a pin at a data point that I know we're gonna touch on next year, later this year, and everything else. Sure. So from that affordability standpoint, everybody always talks about, well, is it more affordable to rent or buy? And you see all the calculations and all this other stuff. But one thing that we are seeing in Austin right now, in the last 2 years, Austin is number 3 in the United States in the terms of brand new apartment doors available for rent in the city. We've had, I think it's close to 90,000 doors come online last year and this year, or are planned to be finished this year. An additional 90,000 doors. Okay, that's a lot of supply, a shit ton of supply. Okay. Is the demand there? Well, some people don't want to live in apartments, so single family rentals are always going to be a thing. So that may be more to which is why this is just a data point. That's all I'm doing.
So look,
but the other one little part to that is the other data point. We're not seeing reduction in rents. We're seeing incentives to get people to sign rents, but the rent dollars are not coming down.
Yeah. So this goes back to me saying demand is desire, which obviously it isn't from an economic standpoint, but it is kind of when you talk about homes, because the demand is desire, then everything is dictated by price. So if rent becomes $100 a month, okay, and you are now living in your home for what? How much? Let's say the price on your home is dropping. Well, you could sell your home and live in a rental for $1,200 a year.
Yep.
Right. At some point, you'd be like, screw my home, I'm renting. Right. And the same is true for homes. Right. If the rates get low enough, like we've seen, people are going to be like, well, we could buy a house. Let's go. Right. And so it's all dictated by price. The desire is still there. The desire and the demand will always be pretty much the same. Right. You're a human. You need a place to live. Period.
That's it.
Period. So then it all has to do with price. Period. So, what we're doing today is we are dealing with the fact that we have a Federal Reserve, that decided that homes were too cheap and that they wanted to raise rates and slow everything down because they saw inflation that a lot of us feel was due to them in the first place, and the government giving out checks to everybody.
Yeah.
Which didn't happen the first time because all the checks they gave out was to the banks. The second
Right.
time was to the people. And I mean, there were arguments on both. I'll tell you from a study standpoint. If you're like a college professor and you get your hands on these numbers, you could have a field day. Doing some studies on all this stuff, because they've done two separate studies here by providing people money or businesses money, and then you get to see what the aftermath looks like.
Does trickle down economics work, or do you have to build from the bottom
unreal.
up? Yeah.
Yeah, like from a strictly numbers point, you got to ignore humanity, right? Just think of numbers, right? Then it's fascinating. But when you start thinking about what you did to get there, man, it becomes horrifying, right? Gosh, what was it for every 1% in the economy? Like 100,000 deaths or something like that. I can't remember what the exact stat was, but people that killed themselves due to increases in rates and things that
I've
can't.
never heard that. Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So there's some stats on it, but. Anyways, I'm going to stop while I'm ahead.
That took my mind to a couple of different spots that I did not want to go, considering some of the things that are coming down the pipeline.
In other words, I mean, it's not a game. I mean, it is to some of these people, but it's not a game when you mess around with the interest rates and things. And the sad part is that in a free market society, you'd never have anything like the Fed. They would never exist, ever. So we don't have a free market. You have a government-controlled market. That says they're free, which is no, it's controlled, but it is. I mean, if you start really looking at the facts, it's controlled.
It is 100%.
And they're not shy about it these days. They're pretty open about it. God, what did Warren Buffett say? He says, if I'm in control of the country, he says, if I'm in control of the country, and I have a printing press that prints Buffett bucks, he called them. He says, and the whole country runs on Buffett bucks, then I can pretty much do whatever I want, because all I have to do is press the print button on the Buffett bucks printer, and we're good to go. The problem is when people don't believe in the Buffett bucks.
That's right.
Right. And I don't know. At the end of the day, people still believe in the dollar, and we're doing great. So who knows? I'll tell you what scared me more is the BRICS nations. I know I've been talking about them for like a year and a half now, but
it's
just
been
last week.
Quiet the last couple of months. And I was about to say, unless I missed something.
Just last week, two of the main countries, I believe it was India and China, agreed that they are now going to trade on a new BRICS currency in oil and everything else, which they have not made yet, but they're in negotiations on creating that currency. And when they do, those two main nations will start trading everything in their new BRICS currency, which would be like the dollar, except that it would be a dollar that was tied to many countries' currency, so that if the dollar were to have a crisis like it has in the past, the rest of the world doesn't suffer. What's the idea behind it?
Yeah.
The main idea behind it is that all of our enemies, which are the ones that are signing up for BRICS, can't have us put sanctions on them and say, oh, you're not allowed to spend our money anymore. Sorry, you can't buy anything anymore. That stinks. Yeah, you better do what we say, right? And that's basically what the sanctions are.
Yeah.
And once you do what we say, we'll give you your spending power back. It's like mommy, daddy taking away a little kid's credit card, right? It's basically what sanctions are. Yeah. And I think within the next 10 years or so, we'll see a world where there are no more sanctions.
That's interesting. And that also brings into an entirely different, when you start talking about tariffs and imports and everything like that, or tariffs on imports and exports and things like that, like that's a big discussion that goes down a different rabbit hole. So we're going to stop short on that one today. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I don't know. I see this world where, and we should probably stop, but I see this world where the U.S. cuts you off as a nation, and then the BRICS nations say, well, you can keep trading with us.
Yep. Yeah. Come here, buddy.
What do you do? Take your spanking or just go to the enemy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm sure there'll be a little bit of both.
I think once it starts, I think it'll accelerate quickly. But all right, we can end it on that.
Well, no, I was going to say one other thing, and this goes on to what you were talking about a while ago. So I know you know, but a lot of people may not know. I've got a fairly big YouTube channel at this point, not in terms of followers, but just a crap ton of videos and content out there on it.
It's not working. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Well, no, it's actually starting to work pretty well. But anyway,
Good. Good for you.
the funny thing is the drive-by commenters. When you and I have had conversations, and I've put them on there, and about, oh, you damn car salesman, every time's a good time to buy for realtors and stuff like that. And to a person every time, I have reached out and like, hey, I will gladly have a conversation with you about our current market and about why I'm saying what it is, backed on data. Do you want to have a conversation? And there's never a response, ever a response.
So they don't care. They're not actually shopping. They just want to tell
Well,
you how
no,
stupid
and
you are.
it's not that they don't care. It's that they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground is what it is. And anytime somebody comes back against them, they're like, oh shit, well maybe I don't know. And by the way, any of our watchers, viewers, and all that stuff, if y'all think I'm full of shit, tell me, and we'll have a conversation. I don't care. Because I've got data and I've got, not a bunch of experience, but, at this point, call it 12 years of experience. I know my ass from a hole in the ground. I do.
Well, I can tell you, man, I like using my neighborhood as an example. I'm not seeing a lot of for sale signs anymore. And my neighbor that lives right next to me that had her home for sale several times over the last couple of years, somebody found her off market and bought the home.
So
it feels like things are changing.
It is. And you said it a while ago, there's smoke but no fire. But the thing is we're seeing smoke.
Right.
That's what that was your exact, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of buyers that aren't pulling the trigger but are getting ready to,
But here's
Loading
the
up the gun.
funniest thing. I had one commenter on YouTube that I threw down the gauntlet, and he came back and he said, man, like everybody can see something major's coming and shit's going to hit the fan. And like he was throwing it all, like we do on here, like something's coming. We don't know what it is. And my comment back to him was, look, if shit truly does hit the fan, what are the most important things to anybody? Food, water, shelter. Food, water, shelter. If shit hits the fan, would you rather be reliant on someone else for your shelter, or would you rather have your own shelter? Guess who didn't show up again?
That's funny.
I mean, it's just the fact of the matter, right? Like,
yeah, if you look back at 2008, one of the main sources for the foreclosures were second and investment homes.
That's right. It was not primary residences.
Well, I mean, there were some, but not a lot of them.
Right.
Not a lot of them at all.
Yep.
Compared to the other ones.
We'll end on that. Guys, we do this every Monday and we have fun doing it. And like I said, if you think I'm full of shit, tell me. Let's have a conversation about it. This great thing called StreamYard even allows me to bring on like 4 people at a time so we can have conversations. That would be fun.
If you think I'm full of shit, you can just shut your mouth because I don't feel like arguing with you. But that's just fine. You can argue with Chris. That's fine.
Oh, damn it. Trent's going to pop in. He's saying they said they were primary homes so they could buy their second homes with less money down. I don't know anything about that.
Something funny about that is there was a commission that was done. I believe it came out in 2014 that concluded that the main primary source of the 2008 crash was institutional investors buying homes and then having them foreclosed upon. After the fact, when the fan got dirty, right? Of course, none of that is talked about. The only information any of us ever get this from is the news, right? And the news wasn't interested in telling us that mortgage lenders weren't actually evil and weren't actually the crux of the problem. They wanted everyone to continue thinking that, but the real issue was Wall Street, believe it or not, like BlackRock.
Well, I was going to say we will not talk about it on this show, maybe next Monday, but I think BlackRock just agreed to like some $1 billion deal to buy like 37,000 homes of some REIT. Yeah, we won't talk about that.
Oh, man.
Guys, we will see you next week. Peace.